Hosted by Mike, the Big Cheese.
Welcome back to the Heavy Metal Mayhem Radio Show. It is Sunday, February 12, 2023. Halfway through the month already. Time is just flying by. I know there's a little football game on there tonight, so I'm not expecting a big audience. But, you can always listen to the replay at any other time. But we do have a great show for everybody tonight. Eric Claro of BlakEarth, formerly of Thrust, I believe. We'll have to talk to Eric about that. And currently of also Tyrant. So there's a lot to talk to Eric about tonight. Also, Fredrik, Werner, and Andy Johansson of Air Raid. They'll be up first tonight because it's getting late where they come from, and we'll get them on in the beginning half of the show. We'll talk to Eric in the second half. Right there, one of my favorite bands of all times, Torch, Beyond the Threshold of Pain. It's not the same without Dan Dark on vocals. I hate to say that. I had a lot of hope. I saw some of the live clips that the band's done recently. This thing is not bad. He's not a bad fit for the band, but it's just not the same as Dan on vocals. When Dan did that, he did a record under the name Thrust, and he recorded one or two new songs and redid a lot of the old songs. It was still Torch. I'm sorry, excuse me, Thrust. I'm getting confused tonight. It was still Torch because of Dan's voice. Dan really was the voice of that band. So we'll wait till the new record comes out. We'll see what they come up with, but nothing like him on vocals. Now let's see what he's got going on. I know he said it was because of his health, but I think there was other reasons involved in it, because it wasn't the first time they was parted ways with the band, and never say never. He just might be back with them again one day. All right, let's head over to England. I haven't played Saxon on the show in quite some time. Let's do Six Foam Girls.
Six months can't get out at night. They keep them in, it's an awful sin. So
Hallows Eve, there are no rules. That's a reunion I can't wait for. I don't know if it'll ever happen. Who knows? I mean, those guys got their own things going on. It seems like Stacey Anderson is the holdout in that. Hopefully they'll come around and get something going on. They were a great band back in the day, and I was lucky to see them live a couple of times between here and Virginia over the years. So here's to a reunion of those guys. All right, how about, you know what, we'll save our Demolition segment for in between the two interviews. We'll get on a couple of demo tapes like always. We'll do some more music between now and then. I was reading, I gotta be, I never even heard of this festival before. It's called Hammerfest. I think it went under a different name. It's been around for quite some time, obviously, over in the UK. 31 bands backed out of the festival, I guess, over the last couple of days. And I don't know what the whole story is. I know Evil is still on the bill playing. I think Acid Rain and I think Holocaust, and there might have been one other band. Half the bands on the bill, I have to be honest, I've never heard of before, you know. But apparently the promoters wanted the bands to all stay in the hotels that they had booked. They probably had to guarantee the hotel a certain amount of people, you know, to get a rate there. And each band was required to pay, I guess, £75 per person to stay in the hotel. And if they didn't, they had to pay a $100 backline fee. That's the story I'm reading, what I'm getting. I mean, if that's the case, I've never heard of that before. I gotta be honest with you. That's something new to me, even, you know, and I've been around a long time. Charging for these type of things, but I guess one band didn't like it and backed out, then a second and a third. Supposedly this is nothing new, it's been going on, so I don't know why all of a sudden now it became an issue. But the bands, from what I said, aren't even getting paid for this festival. They're kind of all volunteering and playing for free. So now on top of that, to get a band to have to spend money to get to where you are to your festival to play, then to charge them up to £300 like a four-man band. You know, that's just crazy. I mean, so it already took place, I'm guessing, because I think it was this weekend. So I don't know what happened, but only a handful of those bands played out of the. I think there were maybe 50 bands in the bill, and 30-something backed out. Not a lot of bands playing for a 2-day festival, but that's just crazy in my opinion. I mean, things have just they're just going from bad to worse. I mean, you know, the pay for play was bad enough, but, you know, a lot of bands do it because that's the only way they can get out there, especially on tour. You know, we had Midnight Healing on the show 2 weeks ago. They talked about how they had to kind of pay to get onto the Anvil tour, and they're going out with Anvil again now, so I'm sure it was the same thing. And that cost a lot of money. You know, just to buy onto those tours is a pretty penny for a young band just starting out. And I mean, Midnight Healing has been around a while, but they're still a young band, a bunch of young kids. So to buy onto that tour, then they come up with the expenses to go out, because, you know, Anvil doesn't go out and do a 3-show tour. They go out there for months on end, and they're a part of that whole tour. That gets to be really, really expensive. So, I mean, you would think everybody would kind of work together to make this thing happen, but it still hasn't gotten there yet. All right, let's get back to the music. Mega Attack, Never Surrender. right, brand new Killer, Argus Eyes. I think the record label, I think it's Cherry Red put out the record. They did such a terrible job of promoting it because they advertise it as Killer Hellfire, the best of. So everybody thinks it's a compilation record, which it's not, or it's the best of Killer. It's a brand new record called Hellfire, and with it as a bonus, you get another CD, which is a best of. So they should really reword that or rephrase it, because I know myself, I don't buy best of anymore, or, live albums. It's just overabundance of them by a lot of bands and labels putting them out there. So it was kind of a bad promotional thing on the record label, but it's a really good album. So if you have a chance, go and pick it up. And right before that, Ritual with Lookout. That's the band out of Washington State here in the USA. Cult Metal Classics just released that Awakening demo. I did a good job on it. I don't know what happened. I used to always get stuff from Cult Metal before it came out. I don't get anything from them at all anymore. So a lot of times I don't find out about it until it actually gets released, or if I see a promo come up somewhere. So I got to reach out to them and see what's going on there. All right, let's get the air right now. Let's play something off the brand new record. We'll talk to the band, and then the second half of the show, we're going to get to Eric. So bear with me. Here we go. Mike.
Hi, very good. And you?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to talk with you guys. I have to tell you, the new record, Fatal Encounter, just sounds amazing. It's great to have you guys back.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have you been on here before?
Oh yeah, I've had Andy on here years ago when the last record came out, Across the Line.
All right.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So, but I'm just happy to have you guys back musically because it's been 6 years since the last record, and I know we had COVID and everything, but it has been a long time.
It has.
Yeah, it's a long time. There's been some reasons, but we are back finally.
That's all that matters. And what I
Yeah.
love is that, with Fredrik in the band now, this is the second record with you singing on it. There seems to be a real consistency now, vocally with the band.
Yeah, and I think we've also learned because we have the same kind of the same band now for 2 records. We also learned to what each of us do best. So Andy knows my voice better now than when I first joined, and I know the music better. So we really hit it off with a good chemistry on this one.
Yeah. And
So
you've
we did
had,
before as well, but even better. I think.
sure, and you've had a lot of the same members for a few years now. I mean, is the hardest part about being in a band today is finding people that can commit to what it takes being in a band?
Yeah, it's a bit tricky when you are. It's not difficult when you don't have so much ambition about going on tours and stuff. That's easy, but when you want to go out on tour, you really need people that have a lot of passion for it. And that's not always easy to find. It's not enough to just play good or sing good. You have to have the passion to do more also.
Do you think a lot of musicians just don't realize what it takes to be in a band today? Because when you're on in a band, a tour could come up at any time. You'd have to take off and leave, and people have families and commitments today, and it does get harder as everybody gets older. But you do have to make that commitment.
Yeah, it's it's exactly like that. You have to sacrifice to get there. There is no easy solution. You have to take away something to gain something else. That's just how it is.
True. Fredrik, now with the second record that you're on, were you able to contribute more to this album? Because you kind of came into the band during the last record. So are you more involved with this one musically?
Yeah, the last album I came in, just when the songs were pretty much already written. So I just came in and did the tracks. I did the vocal. We went into the studio and cut the tracks basically on Across the Line, and then of course we've grown to know each other and play together. So now there's a contribution.
True. I mean, lyrically, the band has grown so much since the first record. Lyrically, the sound and what you're writing about has changed drastically. Is that just as you get older, you change the way you write?
I would say it's because Fredrik is in the band. he writes great lyrics. I prefer to let him do that.
I get that. Well, Andy, you've been with the band since the beginning. You're the last original member. And I think because musically you've been involved in every record and are the main songwriter, I think that's what kind of kept Air Raid consistent over the last, 13 or 14 years.
Yeah, that's... I have always wanted it to be like that, to keep the sound as it is. And this is part of the reasons why we have gone through so many members. Because, people want to write their stuff and
And the music becomes like it's a DNA of a sort.
Yeah.
It needs to be in a specific way.
Yeah, I think so.
You would think when a guitar player, a bass player, a drummer joins a band, they should know what the band's sound is and try to write within that sound frame and not make the band something different.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's tricky, songwriting is... there are many people that can play their instrument, but songwriting is a completely different skill from just playing. So it needs a specific mindset to do it.
Was songwriting something that came relatively easy to you when you started playing guitar, or was it something that you really had to work on and learn how to compose the structure of a song?
I actually started writing songs very late. It was not until my early 20s, and I have been playing for 5 years at that time. I just wanted to be good enough on the guitar to play the stuff I hear in my head. Simply.
I think usually when you're younger, you often contribute to a group, like in a band situation. You know, you got a riff here, and you put it together in the rehearsal room. And once you grow older, once you get that songwriting skill, maybe you start to do things more as painting the whole picture.
It takes time.
Yeah.
With songwriting, it's really like you just have to write and write and write.
It's a skill.
It takes several songs to get to the great ones.
Yeah, well, you guys reached that point, I think, I have to tell you, especially with this new record, Fatal Encounter. I mean, was the music for this album written recently, or does it go back to before COVID, and you kind of just held on to it, waiting for this thing to end so you could get the album out?
There were a few songs written that are before COVID, but the majority is after.
I think around and in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I remember some songs. Yeah, I think, as you said, maybe two or three of them from before, and then we rearranged a lot of songs during. A lot of things was rearranged during the way. It was a rocky road.
It was a long process.
Were you guys able to keep active during the last 3 years? I mean, there were a lot of countries that were completely shut down. Bands weren't able to, there were no clubs or venues open to play at. Were you guys able to get out there and do anything over the last 3 years throughout Europe anywhere?
We haven't, we have been, I don't know how to say it, sort of lucky because we were not about to head out on any gigs or tours. We were planning to make an album, so we were not affected in that way of COVID that we couldn't get gigs or so, because we hadn't planned anything anyway.
And when you're in that mindset of doing a record, it's not always the best thing to get disturbed by, because it's a different thing going out playing, and you have a different mindset to when you're creative and working in the studio. So,
but I know many bands. It hit them really hard because they had planned tours and stuff, and
Yeah, that's what happened to them. You know, early on, the band was putting out a record pretty much every 2 years there was a release. This was a very long gap of 6 years, and there was COVID in between. But do you worry about waiting too long to put out a record? Because if you kind of go back to the 80s, if a band in 1986 waited to put out a record, the scene was over 6 years later. So do you worry about that now, or do you feel pretty confident that, you know, where metal is today is where we're kind of, you know, we're going to stay this way right now?
It will certainly not be 6 years to the next album, I can say that for sure. But yeah, it was a very special period, those 6 years. Like after the last album, we played a lot of shows. So yeah,
and we put out an EP
single.
Yeah, a single. Yeah. The Demon's Eye single.
Yeah, great song too. I mean, you know, the band came up through the internet age, through the age of social media. I mean, how much of a help is that for a band today? Because sometimes there's so much on there to kind of find your way through. It makes it even more difficult, I feel, sometimes for a band to get their message out there. So, as a young band just starting out 13, 14 years ago, did social media help the band out more back then than it actually could today?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's sort of a paradox that the more possibilities to show yourself on the social media, like everyone is doing it. So as you say, it gets like a jungle. So, but actually, when we started out, it was more like Facebook was not like an explosion of. I even remember when the bass player at that time said we should have a Facebook page. I was like, why? we have
I guess MySpace was around back then.
Yeah.
MySpace was the thing, which was a really shitty page, but I thought that was the thing, you know. So I think you are correct. We benefited from being quite early in that sense.
True, and you know the album is on High Roller Records again. I mean, what does a label bring to a band today? Because a lot of bands kind of record their own music on their own. They pay for it. They release their own music either digitally or they produce their own CDs. Is it still important for a band to be a part of a label?
Yeah, because the label has the contacts and has the people to get it out to the station to you guys. Does all the hard work, so that the musicians can focus on what's important, writing music. And
so we have a lot of we have a good situation because we don't do so much outside the music, just playing and writing, etc. Because High Roller is helping us a lot. That's a great label.
You know, imagine just doing everything on your own, which you have to do in the beginning. It's a lot of work, which has little to do with the actual music.
It's very true. Do you feel the business part of the music business does take away from the creative part of it if you had to focus on it all on your own?
Yeah, for me, I have given away one part after the other to someone that is better than me to do it, so I can just write music, and of course you give away like percentage of sales or whatever, but for me it doesn't matter. I just want to do music, and that's the most important.
True. I remember when I got the first tape with Traders Gate and Fife Street on there.
Oh wow.
And it wasn't long after that you guys actually got signed to, I think it was Storm Spell, if I remember, for the EP. It seems like it came relatively quickly for a band just putting out those first couple of songs.
So that's quite some time ago. I have to think about. Yeah, it happened really fast. I don't even understand. It was Stormspell sent. I think they sent me a message, a mail, very fast after this demo and wanted to do more stuff with us. So it was cool.
Were you surprised that you got a reaction so quickly? Because the band really hadn't built up their name yet.
Well, very surprised. Honestly, I knew no one outside Sweden that had anything to do with heavy metal or anything. I had no contacts at all, so that's really where it started, I would say. The little seed.
Absolutely, and you were with Stormspell for a little while back then, and they were a great label at the time. But do you realize then that you have to move on to something bigger or better after that?
Yeah, Stormspell is like the guy at Jordan at Stormspell is he's very enthusiastic and passionate about heavy metal, but this is a very small label. It's very 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 underground. So yeah, I wanted to move past it for sure.
Yeah, and you did that. I mean, we're only in the beginning of 2023. It's a new year. I mean, besides the record coming out and the promotion for it, I mean, do you guys have anything else lined up for the rest of this year?
Well,
no.
not really. We try to keep an open mind. Let's see where this album takes us. I think
we have really we have worked so much with the album, so we have sort of decided that we will take it a bit easy and just relax for some time, and then see what happens.
True. I mean, what are the challenges today of getting on a tour? Because so many bands are booking tours right now because after 3 years of inactivity, they're all out there right now. So there's a lot going on. I mean, is it difficult trying to get onto a tour right now or even trying to get club shows? Because it seems like every club is packed with bands that weren't able to play.
I would say just that. I think you have to look far ahead in the time schedule. And then we just talked about this earlier, that the flights are getting quite expensive, so that can be an issue too, depending on.
And all bands are a bit crazy and want to go out play at the same time, which makes literally have heard from people like in Japan, for example, they can't even go to all shows, but it's too many shows at the same time. They just have to choose, it's almost too much at once now. So we prefer to wait a bit.
Yeah, I think you're better off. Like here in New York last week, there in the last 10 days, there were 6 bands that came through town that you want to go see, and after a while you're like, where do I go? How can I get there? There's just too many at one time, and I guess we all kind of knew this was going to happen. So I think you're right. You're probably better off waiting a little while for things to quiet down a little bit, then go out there where more people can come see you live.
I think so, because it's a lot of work to prepare for a tour, etc., and then having people have to not go to the concert because it's too much. That I don't want that to happen.
True. Do you think sometime, when you do go back out on the road, you'll be able to branch outside of Europe? Maybe the US or the UK or Canada? South America is big for metal too.
Absolutely. I would love to play in USA. We were quite close to play on this festival. Do you know a festival, Ragnarok?
Ragnarok, yeah. They're not around anymore, but it's called Legions of Metal now, and they're still out there doing it, yeah.
Ah, okay. Yeah, it was some years ago. We were about to do it, but it got cancelled in some way. But I would love to go to USA.
Was it out in California or something?
No, that's Frost and
Fire. Okay.
Yeah, we do have quite a few festivals here now, so it would be great if maybe one of them could get you guys on the bill, because I would fly anywhere to see everybody live right now.
That's cool.
That would be great. But, hey, guys, I'm not going to keep you. I know you're doing these interviews all day long today. It was a pleasure to talk to you. The brand new record, Fatal Encounter, February 24th on High Roller Records. Don't make me wait 6 years for the next one.
No, I promise.
Okay. And we'll do this again one day. Fred, Andy, take care, my friends. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, it's great to have Air Raid back. That was Let the Kingdom Burn. Hopefully, like they said, it won't take that many more years to get to the next new record. I know it was a tough couple of years for bands, but, let's get the music going here. You never know when the tide's going to turn in this scene, so why wait so long? I forgot who I was talking to the other day about coming on the show. I was like, wow, they haven't put out a new record in like 14 years. I said, what the hell was the wait for? I get it when there's personal things that happen. We're all getting older. We have families, life. A lot of these guys have jobs, and things happen. But I'm like, I look at the guy on Facebook all the time posting. I'm like, yeah, he's really got nothing going on. I mean, he could have been writing music this whole time. Why wait so long? If that was the 80s, there would be like 8 records out in that time period. But it's a different world we live in today. All right, let's get to the demolition segment. Before we do, I see that Perry Strickland is not in violence anymore. You can't use the word quit because it seems like the band gets very upset. They keep saying that he did not quit the band. Nobody quit the band. I mean, I don't know how you leave it. I mean, when you leave a band, what do? I mean, you get fired or you quit. Are those only 2 options when you're in a band? Unless you're dying, God forbid, that didn't happen. I mean, but you either quit or you got fired, one or the other. So what is it? Did he quit or did he get fired? Nobody's saying, but I think there's only 2 people left in the band right now, so they're dwindling down in numbers. It's just a guitar player and the singer from the original lineup right now. So let's see who's going to take over the Drum Duties and Violence. I know they have a show coming up, I think, next week or the week after that. So we'll find out then, unless they cancel. All right, we'll get to more later on. But how about right now we do Chaos? They were a great band out of Brooklyn. I ran into the guitar player one day. I lived on 86th Street. I saw this guy with long hair working in the Jewish bagel store, and I was like, what the hell's that guy doing in there? I grew up in a neighborhood of Cousins, and there weren't very many metalheads. Even though Lemoore, the rock capital of Brooklyn, if not the world back then, was in our neighborhood, we didn't have a lot of metalheads that grew up and lived there. If they did, they were kind of like in hiding over throughout the 80s, But I ran into him one day, and I started talking to him. He goes, yeah, I'm in a band called Chaos. We're going to be playing the show this weekend, and he gave me a copy of the demo tape, and I became such a fan of those guys, and I don't think I ever missed a show, like from '83 on that they did until they kind of broke up. And there was a great one with them, my good friend Tommy and his band Tempest, and our friend Joey in the band called Nightmare at the Crystal Palace, which was an old disco in Brooklyn that kind of turned into a rock club for a little while. Great show that night. So here you go. This is Chaos, Gates of Hell. It's an old tape from '84, so the quality's not that good, but none of the demos usually are. So enjoy what it is.
Richardson!
Thatcher with Richardson. I figured we stay in Florida for that little double shot over there. They were a pretty good band. I enjoyed that record, but that's all they ever had, and nothing much came out of the band after that. And right before that, off of their first demo tape, Black Widow Brat, we had Bruce Batten on the show many, many years ago, and he has sent me over some CDs with a lot of rehearsals and a lot of unreleased music, which I know I have somewhere in my house. I just don't know where. After we moved like 5 years ago, I have all my CDs stacked up somewhere. I just still haven't had a chance to go through them all. So I know they're in there. Maybe one day this week. Yeah, well, you know what? After next week, I'm actually retired, so I have all the time in the world to do what I want. Maybe I'll go through them all and see what's there. All right, we're going to get on a song by BlakEarth. We're going to give Eric a call. I don't really pay much attention to this whole Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing. It doesn't mean anything to me. I could care less who gets in, who gets out. I don't get upset when the metal bands don't get in there. It's not anything that has to do with metal, in my opinion. If you're in a metal band and you're successful like Priest and Maiden and bands at that level, Sabbath, you really need to be recognized by some ridiculous Rock and Roll Hall of Fame from Rolling Stone magazine. I mean, I know that generation kind of comes from the award show generation, but it makes no sense to me. But I was just looking at Iron Maiden are nominated again this year, and I just happened to see like the list of who is getting voted in the band. And on drums you got Clive Bart and Nico, who have been the two main drummers in the band since they started basically. Or let's go back to when an album came out, because really they go from when your first record came out. They got Yana Gears in there, who really, he's been with the band 30-something years. Whether you like, he wasn't with the band during their heyday in their prime. He came in around 90, but he's been with them for 30-something years. So, like, he kind of does belong in there. And now, you have Paul Diano, who absolutely belongs in there from those first two records, and Bruce from everything after that. But I don't understand, how do they put Dennis Stratton in there? Granted, he played on probably my favorite Iron Maiden record, one of the best ones, but Dennis Stratton was an Iron Maiden, and I don't mean any disrespect, but he was an Iron Maiden for maybe a little over a year, if even that, if even just a year. He played on that one record, and the band fired him because he was trying to change the sound of the music to make it not what it was, going like in a completely different direction, and he was fired. So he doesn't get in there. He gets in there for being on one Iron Maiden record when you have, Blaze Bailey, who played on two records and for a lot more years than he did. They may not have been the favorite era for a lot of people, because, a lot of people were diehard Bruce fans, but he was in the band longer than Dennis was, and he did play on more records than he did. So that kind of makes no sense to me. I really just don't get how they come up with this how they come up with what they come up with. It just, I don't know, it doesn't make any sense, but it is what it is, and it doesn't really matter to me, but I just want to get it off my chest. All right, let's get to some BlakEarth, his Temple of Darkness. I'll get the phone line hooked up, and we'll get Eric on the phone right after this song.
Is this a lie?
right, let's get Eric on the line. Bear with me here 1 second. We'll dial him up.
Hello,
Eric, this is Mike. You're on the air live. How are you, my friend?
Mike. How are you?
I'm doing
I'm
great.
good.
Hey, just got done playing a little BlakEarth, and wow, it's been a long ride to get to this record, but it's out and it's amazing.
Oh, sweet. Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
My pleasure. Well, listen, Scarter was the first time I heard you sing, and I said, this guy's really got something great going on, and it went on and it continued with a lot of other bands after that. But I don't know if people realize, but BlakEarth really came around almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, the band actually, it was 2014 is when I decided to start up a band after leaving the previous band that I was in. I just didn't want to go out and start auditioning for other bands, so I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to start my own band, and that's how that became.
Well, it wound up turning out great 10 years later. I mean, there was a lot that went on in between, the formation of this band and the record coming out. You had your stint with Thrust and you had other things going on. But when did you finally say, hey, I'm going to get back to BlakEarth?
Yeah, so I just decided to do that. I decided to call up some of the old members that I was playing with, and they were available to come down. So I contacted Mark, who just passed away actually last year, and I contacted Bojan Josic, who was a guitar player, and we worked it out from there and tried to figure out what we were going to do next, if we're going to work on some new stuff or we're going to stick to what we had before. So that's how it all went down, actually.
So Earth Fragments, is that a lot of the older stuff, the original stuff that you guys were working on, or is there some new stuff mixed in, or how did it work out?
That's actually a lot of new stuff. We ended up getting back together in 2019 after everything was going on, me and other bands and stuff like that, and different projects, and so we finally decided to start writing new material. So Bo had a bunch of ideas in his belt, so we decided to just go with what he had and just start working on that. So that's how that became. And we ended up picking up Amelia later on to play bass for us, and then Andy after that.
It's definitely a great lineup, and it shows on the record. I mean, the first time I heard, like I said, was with the Haunted Memories album with Scott, and after that, you kind of went to Thrust.
Man.
Yeah, that's how far back I go.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
way back.
Yeah, that was like in 2008 or 9. I mean, my mind is shot, so you got to forgive me.
Yeah, 2009. Yeah, exactly.
Everything seems like yesterday. When I think back, I'm like, wow, that was like 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It just seems to be going too quick.
Isn't that great, man? Hey, I was about to congratulate you on your retirement, man. I wish I was there with you, man.
I can't wait.
I'm hoping.
Soon, two more weeks. I can't wait.
Oh, you got it made.
I'm happy about that. But I mean, I remember hearing that and saying, "Wow, this guy can really sing." And then like years later, Ronnie Cook is a good friend of mine. And you wound up in Thrust with Ronnie, and those two records I thought were incredible. I mean, it had nothing to sound like the original Thrust. I think you brought a lot to those two albums and made the band go in a whole different direction. But when you join a band that's already established compared to starting your own band, like BlakEarth, I mean, what are the give and takes? I mean, you have something that's already like kind of laid out before you, but you also kind of have to fit in. And then you have to kind of make it your own. I mean, how much more difficult is it starting from scratch and being in a band where you kind of have to make your bones, so to speak?
Yeah. Are you talking about when I got into Thrust, or
with Thrust? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it was interesting with Thrust because, as you know, but now I think it was the first vocalist. He had a totally different style than I did. His vocals were just, I mean, he was hitting some really, really high notes. Though I could hit some of them, not quite all the way through like he did, but I had to really adjust to what he was doing and kind of bring it down a little bit and kind of make it my own, which was a little tough. But when it started, when it started for us to start writing new material, that made it a little bit more comfortable for me because that's what I kind of know. It didn't take me out of my comfort zone there. So, it was easier to write new material than to kind of lean on the old ones that they were doing prior.
Sure. Well, that's going to happen in any band that's been around for as long as a band like Thrust has. You're going to have the older stuff and the newer stuff, and you're going to have to meld it together. I mean, I haven't spoken to Ronnie in about a year and a half. I didn't even know the band broke up. I mean, that was like kind of flew under the radar. Ronnie looked like he aged 25 years, married a young hot girl, and he disappeared.
I have nothing to say. I mean, let's just leave it at that.
It sounds good to me.
I'm good with what you just said.
But you and the rest of the guys kind of formed another outfit too, called Motor Wolf, right?
Motor Wolf, that's with the rest of the guys in the band, and the Thrust actually did not go away. The rest of the band didn't, but the Thrust name kind of went away. But the rest of the band did not. So we're continuing that project on and writing new material and hoping to kind of release something within this year or next. So we're in the process of doing that right now.
That'd be great. Musically, what are you looking for with that band? What direction are you kind of going in?
I mean, I remember before. I mean, we still have Angel playing guitar, and same group of guys. I kind of wanted to kind of speed up the music a little bit more from the Thrust years that we were, the two albums that we did. That was a little bit more mid-tempo type of stuff that we were doing with that band. So I was thinking of making a little bit more thrashier, a little bit heavier, maybe faster, faster paced.
Sure. When you have a different band or a different project, I mean, I guess you kind of want each band to be an individual outfit and have its own sound and style. You don't want to repeat yourself because, I could do this with BlakEarth. Why do it with Motor Wolf? Why do it with that band? So you got to really be varied in what you do and have a good variety of music and style.
Right. Especially if you have the same vocalist, that it's hard to really change styles as far as singing wise, but it's good to experiment. So, and that's what I like doing. I like trying to throw different styles out there to try and make it fit the music a little better and to try and not make it sound like the last band or the last album I was in. So, with BlakEarth, I think I have the perfect musicians to do that. They're all amazing, players.
Oh, absolutely. What you just said is so true. I don't think a lot of people realize how difficult it is for a singer because, you're the front man of the band. You have such a defined vocal style. They're kind of trying to sound different in other records. Like, this is who I am. This is how I sing. And it does make it hard, but, you do find a way to make it work. But it is more challenging than when you're playing with two different guitar players or two different songwriters who are writing and playing in different styles.
That is so true. And like I said, playing with the last band, Thrust, it was they had their way of writing, and then BlakEarth has their way of writing. My last band from years and years ago, Scarred, had their way of writing. So everybody has their own styles, whether it be doomy or more thrash metal, speed metal, black metal. I mean, there's so many genres these days. It's so freaking hard to really pinpoint, what's right these days. But everybody just has their own style.
That's true. I saw some band that I was reading about. They're like the mathematical equational speech. I'm like, what the hell is mathematical metal now, dude? I couldn't figure that out. I mean, I've been around for like 45 years in this thing. Like, what the hell is mathematical metal? Is that what happens? Just like hard rock, heavy metal. What happens? This music being music.
No, I totally get that, Mike. Like today's kids, man. Like today, I think I'm gonna call myself Lizard. I'll be a lizard today in class, and I'm going to stick my tongue out and walk around and, pretend I'm a lizard. I don't know, man. A lot of changes in the world today.
Yeah, there's so many, like you said, there's so many genres. There's so many ways of, I get it. People say, did you ever hear, BlakEarth before? What they sound like? It remind me of Sabbath or Zeppelin or, you could just name a few bands that are in that genre, but they try to pinpoint to such a small detail that I think that you're kind of isolating a larger audience of people and say, well, I don't know what that is and I don't know what that's going to sound. I'm not even going to try it. Meanwhile, you play wow, that's pretty good.
Right. Well, it's so weird because like you said, there's so many genres, there's so many good musicians. I'm not gonna. I mean, there's a lot of good musicians coming out, and a lot of the old ones are still great musicians. So it's so hard to really break through when there's such a wide variety of people out there that are talented and I'm just lucky to be in a band to where I'm playing with a bunch of great musicians. So I think that's the best perk in this whole thing is that I'm blessed.
Absolutely. I think when everybody's on point and everybody's shining, it makes the whole band like a perfect unit. I think you definitely have that with Black Earth. You know, Eric, when you think way back, I mean, do you remember the first band you were in as a teenager, or when you first started getting into music and thinking you were going to take on the whole world and get there?
Oh yeah, it's not called the whole world. It's called the backyard, Mike. Backyard with 2 kegs and trouble.
That's good enough when you're a teenager. That is the whole world to us back then.
Yeah, back then it was what backyard's throwing a party this week, and then the kegs there and chicks and whatever. But yeah, back then I still remember the first band, definitely. Oddly enough, we were called Fist, and I met John from Mithra actually, and I did not know he was in Fist, the original Fist from the 70s or 80s, whichever one it was. But I was just telling him, yeah, I had a band called Fist too back in the late mid 80s actually, and I just remember the style. I mean, we were young. I mean, I was like 18, 17, and just playing backyards and not so much thinking we were going to rule the world, but it was more like, where are the chicks at? Where are the beers?
Yep.
Then that's what we were thinking about back then. So, and if we played, we played.
Yeah, that's all that mattered back then. But as time goes on, now you're getting more serious, and you're really developing as a musician. I mean, I think about Los Angeles in the '80s and into the '90s, and that had to be a tough scene to break into. I mean, the club scene over there at the time, the whiskey, Gazzara's, it had to be a hard and tight knit scene to kind of break into.
Oh yeah, I still remember, getting into. Actually, it wasn't too hard. Like it was we just handed him a tape and back then cassettes. I don't know if these young kids know what cassettes are, but back then you just handed them a cassette tape and they listened to it 1-2 songs and they okay, well you guys are on for Wednesday night, and our payment back then was pizza and beer.
Yeah.
No lie. We were at the Whiskey playing on the Wednesday night, opening up for Corey Feldman. That was an odd night, though, by the way. That was a really odd friggin' night, but, it did happen. Yeah, the change back then was, I still remember the Sunset Strip from when Gazzara's was still there and the Rainbow, then you work your way down to the Roxy, then the Whiskey. It's just tons of people. It was just a big, massive party on the streets and in the clubs.
Yeah, I can imagine. And, like everything, life moves on and times change. But, I mean, how's the scene there today? Is it enough to sustain any new band coming out? Or is it vibrant enough to keep the active bands going? Or do you really have to kind of venture out?
Yeah, you kind of have to venture out. Nowadays, it's slowed down quite a bit from what I remember it from. But then you have to go with the punches and the time change. But, the Whiskey's still there, the Roxy's still there, Gazzara's is no longer there, the Rainbow's there. But I think what it is that big corporations are moving in and they're starting to take over and they're building more hotels up around the area. So I don't know. I'm wanting to see what it's going to look like in a couple more years. What change is going to happen up around that area.
Yeah, I can only imagine it's right. If we had the internet back then and social media, things would be different. The scene might have been different back then because I feel like today, like when I hear about a new band, you go on YouTube, there's 40,000 videos of the band, from them going to the bathroom to them playing. And, back then it was like a mystery. It's like, wow, I hear about this band. I can't wait to go to the club to see them for the first time. And you were blown away when they appeared on stage. That mystery is gone today. It's kind of missing. I mean, do you think if we had social media back then, the scene would have been as big as it was?
I think, what, you're absolutely right about the mystery. It's gone. Today, anything goes on social media. I mean, you see everything from that to Tommy Lee's balls. I don't get, but it was completely different. Back then, there were just flyers. You just flyered the shit out of your show, put them up, on telephone poles, and then they get taken down by another band, and you take their sound, put it back up, and it's a little bit of a competition that way, but there was no such thing as, I'm going to post this today, I'm going to post that, and on here and Facebook, wherever else, But it was a little tougher back then to get, have people go to your shows, but they show up, man. No lie. They come to your shows. They see that, these guys are playing here, and it was nice back then. I miss those days, actually.
Oh, so do I. Like I said, there is a lot of pluses in the internet. I mean, you talk about Tommy Lee. I despise that man with a passion because I remember when my wife and I got our first computer in the early 90s and that video came out with him and Pamela Lee. We were watching it.
Yeah.
The two of us sat there watching it. She never looked at me the same again after that. It was over for me after that. I was like, Jesus Christ almighty. That was it.
That was the end of the nightmare, right?
That was it. After that, she says, damn, I thought I had something good here, but I'm missing out now.
Yeah, it's just so weird, sometimes you think, what are these people thinking? What are they trying to get across here nowadays? And there's no, and you would think that there would be a lot of filters that, and the thing about Facebook is that they filter sometimes the wrong way. Like I got filtered the other day. I think I was put on Facebook jail the other day for posting a 1970s picture of me without a shirt, and they said it was child something about some child, and then they put me on lockdown.
Oh God!
I'm like, it's me without a shirt in 1970s, in the 70s, man. So I don't understand today's thinking, actually.
It's a crazy world we live in, but I'm glad we're here, and I'm glad you're here still doing it for us musically. Talking about, with BlakEarth, I mean, signed to Pure Steel Records, I saw that you guys were going on there about a year or so ago. I mean, how does it work out with the labels today? Is it still important to be on a label? I mean, absolutely for distribution, but does a label really offer anything else like it used to back in the 80s? Because, you couldn't make it without a label supporting you back then.
Right. I think the word label has a different name now compared to record label or label back then, just because I think there was more money involved in pushing the band and getting them on tours and getting them special treatments and stuff like that. Nowadays, it's more of just distribution is what I want to get at. But at the same time, like the label Pure Steel, great label. Of course, with two Thrust albums later after that, they really put your band out there. Worldwide distribution is actually what they do. You get your name all over the place, all over the world. I never thought our name was going to come out in Russia or in China somewhere or in anywhere else. But it's good to still be on a label, but it's not the same. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But, I talk to so many bands, and you hear them saying they love it the way it is today because they feel like they're in complete control of their music. The technology wasn't there 30, 40 years ago to be able to record yourself on your own. I mean, you could buy a machine today and have your own studio in your house, and the whole band can record there. People exchange files from all over the country, if not the world, and they have bands that way. This wasn't available, so it is easier for a band to make things happen where back then you really couldn't do that. But you do need that distribution, I think. I think to try to do that on your own can be extremely difficult, and you wouldn't have the same reach that any kind of record label can give you.
Absolutely true. Everything you just said is absolutely true, man. It would be tough. Plus, with everything else that's going on in the band, writing wise, and just trying to get new music together, the booking shows, whatnot. You've got a lot going on, and to top it off with trying to distribute it and trying to send it here, send it there, it takes a lot of work, a lot of computer work, a lot of contacts, media, whatever. So yeah, it does help being on a label today.
Sure.
One thing I was going to say is that I love Air Raid, dude. That's the first time I've ever heard that band. I was listening to your show prior. I was listening to the two guys talk. They're great, man. I love those guys. And
they're a great band.
Yeah, and they sound great. I was listening to their music, and I love the guys' vocals, music, and I love the interview that you did with the two guys. They're down to earth guys, man.
Yeah, they've been around. Believe it or not, they've been around for probably 10 or 12 years now, and they have a few records out. They were like one of those newer young bands that kind of brought back the old classic sound from the '80s. and they were good at that.
Yeah.
They've gone through a lot of singers over the years, so they had a lot of changes, and they've been kind of missing in action for the last 4 or 5. But really good band. Anytime you interview people from Sweden, they're always like the most difficult interviews because it's like a big language barrier. And I got my Brooklyn accent, which makes it even worse on top of that. So sometimes you just sit there and it's like dead air for like 2 minutes.
Good, Mike. No, you did really well, my friend. You kept up with what they were saying, man. It was good. It was a good interview.
Thank you. Plus, the people that were supposed to interview didn't do it. Two different members of the band did it. So I was like, God damn, now I got to go think of stuff for these two guys and answer questions too, because I had everything prepared for the other ones. I don't really prepare anything. I just kind of wing it,
Right.
That's the way it goes.
It went well.
Good. I'm glad. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Now that Earth Fragments is out, I mean, is this the kind of band that you're going to be able to take out on the road if the shows come up, or maybe just do one-offs? What's the plans for the band as a whole?
The plan is we're actually working on our next album already.
Oh, nice.
I know this just came out, so we're actually working on a full album. I don't know how many songs are going to be it. I know it's going to be more than 5. But yeah, that's on the works right now. And at the same time, we're looking at shows in the near future. We have actually a show coming up with Betsy Bitch at the Whiskey on the 9th of March. So that would be our first show.
Oh, that's going to be fantastic. I wish I was out in California to see that. That would have been a great
I'll
night.
get you in, man.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm only allowed to go out on garbage night to put the pails out to the curb. Other than that, I'm not allowed to go out really.
Oh no, I'm the same way, man. You're not alone in this world.
Once my wife heard I was retiring, she became my boss. Not that she wasn't before, she was anyway, but she took over for anyone I had before her and assigned me a whole bunch of new duties.
Oh, a lot more things are to come, Mike. Just letting you know, man. So prepare yourself.
Absolutely. I can't wait. But I'm glad that you have this going on now and that we are going to get new music from you guys. I mean, what is considered a full-length record today? Like you said, more than 5 songs. Back in the day, maybe 8 songs made a record or 9 tops. Today, bands feel like they got to put out 13, 14 songs. Do you think there's too many to put on a record where people might just lose interest if there's too many songs to go through?
No, you know what? You're absolutely right again, man. I'm so glad we're in the same level here as far as, I remember the Rainbow album. You remember Long Live Rock and Roll, for example. Yeah. That has 8 songs, and people don't really realize that, wow, that's a full album. So, it's only a few more from what we released, which is 5 songs, which is an EP. No, I think people, depending on what kind of material you put out there, if it's an ear catcher, if it has a lot of hooks that people can really adapt to and sing to, and I think it would be really great. But the guys between Bo and Andy, their writing techniques, it's incredible what these guys put out. It's like, okay, I haven't gotten anything for that yet, but all of a sudden there's a new song coming. So they're in major writing mode right now. So I think now is the best time to really work on a new album as well, even though we just released this one. So, yeah, 200 songs next album, I guess.
Well, I know you guys can do it. That's one of the things I love about the band is that it's just like you said, there's hooks, there's riffs, there's melodies. I can sing the chorus and remember it the next time it comes around again. A lot of that's been missing in music over the years where people forgot that, a song has to be catchy. I don't care if it's, soft rock, hard rock, heavy metal, death metal, whatever it may be, whatever genre. The song has to be catchy. And if it's not catchy, I have no interest in it. And you managed to do that with all 5 songs on this record, whether it was Voyager, Warlord, The Raven, Dead Heart. Before you came on, I played Temple of Darkness. Every song is a memorable song from start to finish.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, by the way. I just wanted, it's weird because my thinking now is not so much for myself and myself alone, but more of like, okay, how is the audience going to react to this, and what would be good to kind of bring everybody together, and I just figured, well, let me try these things here and there, and we recorded it. Actually, there was with Warlord, Bob. No, not Bob. Oh my God, I forgot his name. But anyway, Warlord. We it was just an idea that we just threw around as far as the music is concerned, and Bo came up with the riff for that. But the lyrics, I just thought that O's and stuff like that, crowds could owe themselves to death with with things like that. So I just figured, Maiden does it, Priest, everybody does it.
Sure.
So, but I just kind of wanted to twist it up a little bit, But yeah, it's just great coming up with little hooks here and there.
Yeah, you definitely did on this record. And I have to ask you, I mean, as if Thrust wasn't enough going through that, it seems like, you went from the frying pan into the fire. Are you still with Tyrant?
I was never with Tyrant. I don't
Okay.
know how I got there with that. I think Greg.
That's Greg.
That's Greg. I think Greg might have put it out there somewhere, but I am actually. He actually contacted me to do, I think, a festival in Mexico, and I told him I'm not quite sure where I'm at right now, but I definitely would love to. So I think that's where it took it to the next level of, I'm in Tyrant, but not necessarily. So I'm and Greg's got a lot of things going on too. I know he's working on a project with Sammy from Ruthless.
Yeah.
So they're doing something together. But yeah.
Okay, at least that clarifies that. Yeah, a lot of things I'm saying, because if that ever happened, I think you get back on the phone and call Ronnie again, if that ever came through. Because
that probably won't ever happen again.
Because Greg is a handful. I love Greg. He's a good friend of mine, but he's a handful.
Yeah, Greg's a good guy. I love Greg.
Absolutely.
Too.
He's good people.
Yeah, he's really good people. But, yeah.
Yeah, I know he got bummed about that thing in Mexico because the singer doesn't have a passport, couldn't get out of the country. Robert Lowe, who was singing with the band at that time, and he just got, all twisted about that. I don't blame him in a way. I mean, if you're in a band and you're going to travel and do shows, you got to have a passport. And if you don't, I mean, why even get going with it? Because eventually most of the festivals are overseas or in South America today.
Yeah, exactly. And you would think about it. Why wouldn't you have a passport, especially you as a musician? And, and he's, especially Rob, I mean, he's been around the block many times over, Candlemass and all these bands,
Yeah.
But, I don't understand that, why you would not have a passport or, at least update a passport. So, so that's that. I'm surprised Greg when did you speak to Greg about this?
I talk to Greg all the time. He's a good friend of mine. He's been on my show dozens of times, in the past. I think him and his brother had a little falling out, and that's what caused that riff, and that ended the his lineup of that band. And then Robert came in, and when I heard that you were going to be a part, I said that could be pretty good. Yeah. That could be really good, I think. And then I was like, I said, I'll talk to Greg about it the next time. And then we got busy. And I said, so Eric's on the show. I'll ask him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, musicians are so hard to. Musicians are so hard to deal with, man. Everybody's got their own little quirks, and I'm still looking forward to doing something with Greg, even if it's to do the festival and stuff like that. But that's probably in the near future, sometime after we're finished with this album, because I'm really on lockdown with BlakEarth right now, working on the new stuff. So, but yeah, I love Greg. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, no, Greg's a good guy. But that is a good thing that you're busy with BlakEarth. I mean, you were talking before about the fans and everything, and the music. Do you, really get upset about reviews or interviews that go on where people say bad things about you or the band? I mean, I haven't heard anything negative about this album anywhere. But do reviews bother you, or do you, after a while, you just say, you know what, I got to rise above that as somebody's opinion?
You know what, Mike? Actually, I've gotten everything and anything from reviews, man. Whether it be live shows or but it doesn't bother me anymore. I'm totally. Everybody has their own opinions on things, and if that's how they see it and that's how they perceive it, then that's how it's going to come out on whatever they put it out on. But so far, you're absolutely right. What I've seen on the reviews on the BlakEarth, thank God, everything's just been positive. I haven't seen any negatives on it. So now that said, hopefully there won't be any after this speech. Right?
You're right.
Yeah.
I think you're going to be okay over there. I wouldn't worry about it. One of the things I always ask a lot of bands today, because, the younger kids today, they have very short attention spans. They find it hard to latch on to things like, where we bought a record as a kid, we would play that record start to finish. It didn't matter
Oh my
who they were,
God,
what.
yeah.
Today, if, they play like 10 seconds of a song and like, nah, and they get rid of it. As an artist, does that worry you that you really got to try to lure in that audience or capture them within the first couple of seconds of a song, where other bands say, you know what, my song is going to build up over time and you're going to get into it as it goes along, but it feels like, if you don't hit them right off the bat, does that make it harder as an artist?
It really does. It really does make it really hard. And you're absolutely right. I mean, right from the first note to the maybe third note, something's got to capture something. There's got to be some sort of snap that's got to happen in their brain and go, wait a second, this sounds really good. I'm going to play it all the way through and listen to everything. But it's hard, like you said. Nowadays with these kids, it's hard with their attention span, hard for them to really latch on, especially with, you could buy one song only if you want to on the internet rather than buying the entire album. And and I'm still glad they're still putting out EPs and vinyls and CDs, because that's what we grew up on, man. We looked at the album art. Oh shit, that alone, that makes the album for me. That's a badass looking album. So I'm sure it's going to sound great without even hearing the music. So yeah, I worry about that, but not to the point to where I'm concerned. I think we just play what we play. If people like it, they like it. If they don't, then, it's on to the next one. That's all there is.
I don't think that's a problem you're going to have with BlakEarth, Eric. You guys did an amazing job on this record, and I'm going to have to let you go in 2 minutes because I want to play a couple of more songs from the album and kind of wrap up the show by 8 o'clock over here on the East Coast tonight. Plus, you probably want to go watch the football game anyway. I keep forgetting Super Bowl Sunday. I do a show every year in this state. I should just kind of pause it this week.
Wait a second, Mike. Are any of these your teams at all, man?
Nah, none of them.
Exactly. That's what I have to say right there. None of them. None of these guys in my teams.
That's right. I'm just going to make chicken wings and sit down and just stare at a blank screen because that's all it means to me right now.
There you go, man. Get used to that.
That's it. But, Eric, listen, man, it was a pleasure talking to you today. You're a great guy and an amazing singer. BlakEarth, what an incredible job you did on this EP, and I'm really looking forward to the next record. And when it comes out, come back on here and we'll do this all over again.
Thank you so much, Mike. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate you having me here again. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Take care. Have a great, I know it's earlier out there, but have a good afternoon. We'll talk again soon.
All right, you too.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right, Eric Claro of BlakEarth, really good guy. Let's do Dead Heart. I think I mentioned this earlier on when we were talking about the rest of the album. Here you go. Pause that for a second. Eric! I think we lost him over there. Sorry about that. I hate to cut off the song, but I thought maybe he forgot, maybe left his keys in the building or something. Let's get back to it.
Twisted and kind, torn in betrayal.
right, more Black Earth with the Warlord. And I want to thank Eric for being on tonight's show and Fredrik and Andy from Air Raid. Next week, who do we have on the show next week? Steve Sexton from Oblivion Night. I can't wait to talk to him. Big fan of that band from back in the day. Also, Siriana Telly, who used to be with Burning Witches. She's got her first solo record out right now. We're going to be talking to her later on. And we got most of the guests lined up for March on tonight. You know, I took care of that this week. I have one more spot to fill, and we'll see who that's going to be. I'll let everybody know about that when we get closer to March. But thank everybody for being here tonight. Go enjoy the rest of the Super Bowl, whoever's not watching it already. I appreciate it. How about I forgot. It's Valentine's Day Tuesday, so we got our Merry Metal Valentine's show. Don't forget to tune into that, to My Metal Valentine. It's the matinee, the holiday matinee like we do every holiday. So that'll be on Tuesday at 12 o'clock. Don't forget to tune into that, or just catch the repeat if you're at work or anything else. And I'll see you guys next Sunday night. So how about we get into the mood for Valentine's Day with a little love and get love loaded with Wasted. Take care, everybody. Have a great week. I'll see you guys next Sunday night.